proponent to build that station wants to add an ancillary car wash, as is typical in a lot of service stations. Unfortunately, the code right now doesn't allow it, either as a primary use or as an ancillary use. Back in 2012, the City Council approved a zone code amendment that eliminated all car washes, whether it's primary use or as an ancillary use. They were eliminated from all commercial zones in the city. The only way that this could be considered for this site is to do a zone code amendment. There is no other mechanism, entitlement mechanism, whereby that could be approved for just one location. So they requested a zone code amendment. It would affect only the CG zone. And just for reference and background, the city currently has 2 service stations in the CG zone, which is mostly Hamner Avenue, and 2 in the Gateway Specific Plan that have attached car washes to them. And in addition to those, there are 2 full service and 1 self-service car wash within the city. These are all on Hamner Avenue or just west of Hamner Avenue. One of them's on Mountain. There are 6 other fuel stations on Hamner Avenue that do not have attached car washes in the CG zone. If this is approved, those would have the opportunity to attach a car wash to them. The staff report states that most of them can't accommodate it. The fact is, all of them can't accommodate it because they don't have the property in order to construct a car wash and have adequate access around the building maintained. So basically, this is a zone code amendment that, while it applies to the CG zone, it really is only applicable in one location, which is the village, Norco Village Shopping Center at River and Corridon. One of the impetuses behind the City Council adopting a code amendment previously to eliminate car washes was, one, they do not generate sales tax as a primary use, even as they eat up a limited retail property in the city. And then 2, noise. The proponents of this particular car wash had a reputable noise analysis company do a study on an existing facility that is similar in design to the one that they would like to put in the Norco Village Center. And they used 2 different noise standards because the closest homes to the facility are to the south in Corona and then to the north in Norco. The reason they used the 2 different criteria is because the Norco City of Norco standards are more stringent than City of Corona. So they use the City of Corona standards for the homes to the south and the Norco standards for the homes to the north. The impacts are not significant for the homes to the south and do not require any change to the design of the car wash. There were, however, impacts to the homes to the north and required some changes to or requirements in the construction of the facility so as to meet the standards of that existing facility that was used for the analysis. Those being that they'd have to use the same design criteria and the same location within the car wash tunnel for the equipment. The exiting of the tunnel would be limited to 8 feet or less. Same equipment dryers and noise reduction packages that were used in the analysis package. The hours of operation would be limited from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and then the same construction techniques. And by doing this, then they can meet the noise standards for the City of Norco for the homes to the north. Planning Commission reviewed this zone code amendment and they unanimously recommended approval of it to the City Council. And so with approval, the zone code amendment would only allow ancillary car washes to fuel stations so that the issue of not providing sales tax revenue to the city would be overcome because it would be ancillary. and they recommended approval. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation and answer any questions.
Does council have any questions for Steve?
Steve, I'm in agreement with this, but in the chapter 18, 21, or 29, how could you add the word attached, since that seems to be an operative word in your report, and that the one in question at Corridon was to be an attached car wash, so we don't end up with a freestanding situation.
We could add attached. There are some locations where they're not attached. What's being proposed at Corridon and River is an attached one, but we certainly could add that.
That's what I would ask council is, you know, like we have at the Chevron at 6th Street, to me that's attached.
Unlike the
Under
one
that
at
same
Shell.
roof line.
Unlike the one at Shell.
Exactly, yeah. And that would be my request to council, to have the word attached somewhere in that ordinance.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Go ahead.
Steve, you talked about the houses to the north, and we talked about the houses on the Corona side, which is adjacent to the property. When we first approved of this shopping center and everything, the people that lived east of that, across the street, so they're not going to be impacted by the noise from this?
Not to levels that exceed the Norco City standards.
Is our current city noise code.
Right.
Okay, so as long as that, because they were really adamant about the gas station and the operation of the gas station, they are the ones, especially in Remington Estates, so the noise isn't going to impact them, correct? All right, thank you.
Yeah, Steve, you've got it's plural here, washes. So that means that if we pass this and any new gas station coming into town could add this on there without having to come to us and just go to planning and it would have to be attached to, with a gas station, it couldn't be a freestanding one.
Correct. It'd have to be attached to a gas station, and the gas station itself is a conditional use permit, so it'd have to go to public hearing with the planning commission.
Okay, and another thing, when we approved that site, we wanted to make sure that the entrance to the gas station had room for trucks with trailers. Now, is this going to take away from that, or?
No, the car wash will actually be to the rear of the service station, adjacent to the entrance to the shopping center. The entrance to the gas station, where they have accommodated trucks and trailers, will not be affected.
Okay, thank you.
Robin, anything? I have nothing. We'll open the public hearing now. Is the applicant here? I don't see Sam or the Lewis group. Do we have any cards on this?
No cards.
Okay, so I'm now going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Any discussion?
I don't have any more discussion, but I'd move to approve.
Can we do the addition that Greg suggested?
Yeah, just add language, this isn't magic, but at the end of that, the red underlined sentence, any car wash must be physically attached to the service station building.
Are you good with that, Berwin?
What's that?
To do that addition, Greg's suggestion?
Right.
Okay. So you want to make that motion, Greg? Or Berwin, you've made that motion?
Berwin made the motion. I'll second that.
All right.
Okay, remember, you're not, this isn't approving the ordinance, that's a separate action.
Council members Hannah,
Yes.
Grunmeyer,
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Newton.
Yes.
Mayor Bash.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right.
Need a motion on the ordinance.
So now we need a motion on the ordinance.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1002 for the first reading and scheduled second reading for July 20th.
Second.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Norco approving zone code amendment 2016-01, amending section 18.29.20 of the Norco Municipal Code, parentheses CZ zone, and parentheses to add car washes as a permitted ancillary use to a full fuel service station in the CG zone. Zone code amendment 2016-01.
Councilmembers Grunmeyer,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Newton.
Yes.
Mayor Bash.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to B, ordinance number 1003, first reading, zone code amendment 2016-03. Taking it to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This is another zone code amendment being sponsored by the city. It was brought to the city's attention that our standard parking standard for hotels and motels is quite a bit more stringent than our neighboring communities in western Riverside County, all of them, in fact, including Riverside County. So this is an amendment being proposed by staff to bring our standards consistent with the majority of the jurisdictions in western Riverside County. And the reason for doing it is these are, as you're aware, in the city's budget process, these are uses that are highly sought after in broadening our tax base. And with us having such a more stringent parking requirement, it might drive developments into neighboring communities, and we want to be as competitive as possible. Most of the communities have a standard of one space per guest room, and the code amendment would change our requirement to the same, one parking space per guest room. And I'll conclude my presentation and answer any questions.
Any questions for Steve?
I have
Robin?
real quick, Steve, a lot of these that you referenced in the little table on the staff report talked about one space per room plus 2 spaces for the managers or whoever. Can you tell me why you guys elected not to have like the 2 extra spaces for the manager or staff?
When the city first incorporated, or when a city first incorporates, what they typically do is they adopt the county code on the interim. And that's what was done when Norco incorporated in '64. And it was typical a long time ago where you'd have a motel with a live-in resident. That's not the kind of motels we want to attract. We want to attract the one that the employees come and go. They all come in, they all go when their shift is over, and that's why.
Okay. And then the second question that I had was with the hotels that we have in town, and I don't know if anybody has an answer for this or not, how often are our hotels at 100% full capacity and every single parking spot's being used?
And that's the other reason. They're not 100% of the time at full capacity, and even when they are at 100% capacity, when the staff is there, the people are out and about doing other things during the day. So that's why we're proposing it the way we are, is because there would be no conflict typically between when the staff arrives and when the guests are there.
That's it, Steve.
Berwin?
Okay, how's this gonna affect the people traveling with horse trailers, stuff like that? How's it gonna affect their parking?
What we've done in the past in review of hotel site plans is we've asked them to put parallel spaces directly across from each other so that you can pull into one space and pass through into the other one to effectively accommodate the vehicle and the trailer with it. So we do the same with any other, it won't affect that practice.
Okay, so any more new ones that come in will have that clause in there where they have to provide space?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Ted?
Actually, I'm going to throw this question out at the chief there. Eric, you work Moreno Valley, and they're asking for the same thing, one space per guest room, in dealing with in the other cities. Have you had a problem, motels, stuff like that, as far as parking. I know we probably have not had that problem in Norco, but in working in the city of Moreno Valley, did you guys have a problem with that in working in that city?
And not that I can recall specifically, no.
So it was a major problem when they, running that now number that you know of.
Not that I have any recollection of. Obviously, we're always concerned about the safety of the vehicles in a parking lot, so our recommendations when we go to the planning review board is there's plenty of lighting, plenty of visual aspects to the parking lot for security.
So this-
Those are the things we look at.
So this, you don't think this is going to impact your calls for service then at this point?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Greg?
Steve, in regard to what Berwin mentioned about trailers, remember on planning, we did this with the Hampton Inn, that we also had like an unwritten policy for larger spaces for dualies, and then also to accommodate truck and trailers. My question in that regard is, how does that affect your traffic count on spaces? If we're going one space per room, how do we make that allowance to get or require additional spaces on top of that?
There's no real study to indicate that that's a fairly unique situation for Norco. So all we can do is go on what we've seen in the field with our existing hotels. Because definitely if one person comes in with a trailer, they're taking up 2 spaces. But it goes back to a combination of the previous question that they're not filled 100% 100% of the time. So there would be ability to accommodate 2 spaces for one vehicle and trailer parking situation. And honestly, we have not had that much happen with the existing hotels for that scenario.
It's interesting, I didn't know we had 3 hotels here in 1964 when we became a city. I didn't realize that they all had residents there. That's why they're kind of interesting. They're all gone. Do we have anybody who wishes to speak on this issue?
No cards.
So opening, closing the public hearing, bringing it back to council. Do we have a discussion, action? I'll make a motion to approve.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Norco approving zone code amendment 2016-03, amending section 18.3, 8.10, parens 15 of the Norco Municipal Code, number of parking spaces required, to revise the parking standards for hotels and motels, zone code amendment 2016-03.
Council members Grunmeyer.
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Newton. Mayor Bash.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to item C, public hearing confirming costs for spring weed abatement. Fire Battalion Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. What you have before you tonight is spring weed abatement. This is the confirmation of costs for abating hazardous vegetation from vacant parcels throughout the city. The city weed abatement contractor has abated all parcels that after inspection have failed to meet the April 10th deadline to abate the hazard. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions from council? Berwin? Robin?
Chief, I just have one question. There's a couple of what I would assume to be property managers that have several properties. Is there some way to make it a little less comfortable for them to have you guys do the work or the abatement? Like if they have one property, it's an X fine, or multiple properties where the fines increase or anything? I'm just wondering, because there's one property manager that has 7 different properties on this list. It's excessive.
The answer is in terms of weed abatement, as a practical matter, is no.
No.
We charge the actual cost of providing the service. And frankly, the city and others, there are folks decide that the city's cost is cheaper than they can do themselves.
Okay.
Well, you can increase the administrative fee as long as you can justify that you spend more time doing it.
Well, I just feel like we
Of
make
course, I
it
know
too
you do.
I mean, if I have a property, I feel like we make it too easy for them. Yeah, oh, go ahead and I'll pay, you know, a minimal fee to have the work done, so.
Do you want to make a motion to put that on the agenda to maybe increase the fee?
Well,
You can't increase, the fee is what it is. I mean, we have to charge the actual cost, and you can do an analysis for next year,
Let's
what,
make sure.
make sure the actual recovering.
okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Ted? Great.
Rob and I agree with you. I bring this up every year. Every year it's the same suspects that use, it's the same names, same people, every year that use the city for a landscape service. So I'm in agreement with you. I think you should feel the cost a little bit on that. John, you always tell me that we can't do it. I'd like you to find.
this discussion before.
Yeah, and you always say it in a practical matter, so I would challenge you to find an impractical matter that we can increase the cost.
There's a difference between citing them for a violation, which is, we charge what we charge, we set those bail amounts, versus the state process, like it's statutory, of abating the weeds when they don't do it themselves. We could become more aggressive, I suppose, in terms of citing people. That doesn't get the weeds moved, that we can cite.
I guess what always bothers me is the fact that they use us for their weed service, and the reality is, how come we're so much cheaper than the real weed service?
Right.
I mean, if we're
Actually, in my experience, I've done this for a long time, maybe it's different the same as yours, is that it's not a function of the money. It's just that when you have particularly a property manager or a property owner who doesn't live in Riverside County, even if they can get done cheaper, it's a lot more difficult. They don't know where to go or who to hire. And, it ends up they're paying more than they would if they found somebody here, other residents are. But it's cheap money for them. It's just impossible to do.
I agree that we charge them
Andy,
less than.
correct me if I'm wrong, does your time
Right.
and our staff time included with this charge back, other than just controlling the weeds that you pay the contractor? So is that included in the fee?
It's covered in the administrative costs, so
So we're covering back at least your staff costs, your time costs, and our staff costs on that?
yes.
And then the contractor's costs?
We, the administrative is 100% over the contractor's costs that we're recuperating.
So we're recuperating all our costs on this thing? Okay, without, there's no actual fine imposed on that either?
So they're going to continue.
Can we impose a fine in the future?
Yeah.
We can, okay.
No, this process is set forth in the state statute.
Okay, just as long as we're covering the costs.
Any other comments, questions? Do we have any?
No cards.
So I open and close the public hearing, bring it back to council discussion action. Do we have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmembers Grunmeyer. Hannah.
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Mayor Pretend Newton. Mayor Bash.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to item D, ordinance number 1004, first reading code change 2016-01.
I suppose this is mine. That we've discussed it at the May 18th, 2016 meeting. We had a lengthy discussion on the process and a direction from City Council to prepare an ordinance and come back to implement what's the requirement of Senate Bill 415. Senate Bill 415, which becomes effective January 1, 2018, prohibits cities from holding an election on a date other than the statewide primary and general election if prior elections on the non-current date, which is Norco. All statewide elections are an even number of years. Norco has their elections as well as some other cities on odd numbered years. It changed as a result of a request from the Riverside County voter registrar of voters because back in the day it was a lot more difficult for them to tabulate ballots, and that they asked cities, as a combination of money saving and efficiency measure, to shift to odd numbered years rather than attaching the statewide election. Norco did that. The consequence of that is significantly lower voter turnout. The SB 415 requires that the city go back to the way we used to be, holding them on even numbered years. If the result of having been on odd numbers years had resulted in a significant decrease in voter turnout. In Norco's case, over the past 4 election cycles, the difference has been 23.8% to 64% in the statewide election. So obviously the change to even numbered years results in significantly higher turnout. The obligation is to have the consolidation take place no later than November 8th, 2022. The earliest possible consolidation in Norco's case is November 2018. After discussion at the May 18th council meeting, council directed staff to bring back an ordinance memorializing their decision that night to, since the purpose is to get voters out, to get them out as quickly as we can, and so consolidate at the earliest possible date, which is November 18th, 2018. And that's what this ordinance is. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer.
Council have any questions for John? Do we have any cards on this issue?
No cards.
Opening the public hearing, closing the public hearing, bringing it back to council, discussion or action?
One question. Originally, on this point for Cheryl, the financial impact cost of notifying voters, the cards is said between 5,000 and 7,000, and that's, before I thought this was a whole lot larger numbers. We had about 30,000, didn't we, before? So it's considerable cost savings, right? Doing this difference.
Cost savings, where was the 30,000?
You said before, cost of election for us in the past, you've allocated in the off year, cost about 30,000, correct?
35 to 45,000,
Okay.
yes.
So now our actual cost notifying the voters is between 5 and 7, or is it just for this
This
ordinance?
is just to notify the residents of this
Okay,
change. The
okay.
cost of election still stays within that range,
Okay, so,
and that's just the cost of running the election, which would be in 2018.
all
We wouldn't
right.
have that cost in 2017.
I just wanted to make sure we're about the same. I didn't understand what the
Okay.
5, 7,000. Thank you. Now I do.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Norco, California, amending Chapter 2.44, General Municipal Elections of Norco Municipal Code by establishing the Norco general election date as being on even numbered years effective November 2018, Code Change 2016-01.
Councilmembers Greinmeier? Hannah?
Yes.
Hoffman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Newton?
Yes.
Mayor Bash?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We're going to take a 10-minute break now because I think that item 6A is going to be lengthy. And so we'll take 10 minutes, be back at about 20 till 9.
It hurts. I feel like I've been riding for several hours. Several hours.
Tell her it's her civic responsibility to stay here.
Oh no, we need cigarettes. I'm Danielle. I talked to you back and forth. Hi, I'm Danielle.